Hey everyone, ready to tackle AP World History. I know it can seem kind of overwhelming, like trying to memorize a library's worth of information.
It can be a lot.
Yeah, but don't worry, this deep dive is all about helping you understand the big picture.
Right, not just like a jungle of dates and names.
Exactly. We'll unpack the key themes, connect the dots between centuries, and hopefully have some fun along the way.
Absolutely. It's not about memorizing facts and figures, but really understanding the flow of history.
The flow.
Yeah, like the why and the how these events and these societies shaped our world today.
Well, I'm definitely ready to uncover those hidden connections.
Me too.
We have a ton of fascinating material to explore, from scholarly articles to historical accounts. So where do we even begin?
Well, let's start with the structure of the course itself.
Okay.
So AP World History is divided into 9 units spanning from 1200 to the present day.
Okay.
Think of these units like chapters in an epic saga, each with its own unique setting, characters, and plot twists.
Okay, so 9 units, each covering a specific period, but how do we make sense of it all? Are there any clues hidden in plain sight that can guide us?
You bet there are. Even the titles of these units offer valuable insights.
Okay.
For example, we begin with the global tapestry, suggesting a world of diverse cultures interacting not in isolation.
Not in isolation.
Yeah, think of it as a rich and intricate tapestry with each thread representing a different society, a belief system, or a trade route.
The global tapestry, I love that imagery. It really paints a vivid picture of a world just buzzing with activity and interconnectedness. But the journey doesn't end there, does it?
Oh, it doesn't stop there, no.
What happens as we move through the units?
Well, we see those connections evolve and intensify.
Okay.
So we move from networks of exchange to transoceanic interconnections, they ultimately to globalization and the modern world. This progression reveals a key takeaway. Historians see history as a process of increasing global integration.
Okay.
So things becoming more and more connected over time.
So it's not just a random collection of events.
Right.
There's a flow, a direction to history.
A direction.
Yeah, it's like watching a river widen and change course as it travels towards the ocean. But let's dive into some of these units.
Yeah, let's do it.
See what treasures we can uncover, what stands out to you as particularly significant, maybe even a bit unexpected for someone just starting their AP World History adventure.
Well, the global tapestry is a great place to start.
Okay.
You might be surprised to learn just how interconnected the world was even before Columbus set sail.
Okay.
In Unit 1, we see the Song dynasty in China making groundbreaking technological advancements centuries before Europe's Industrial Revolution.
Wow.
We also see powerful empires like Mali and Africa thriving on trans-Saharan trade routes connecting sub-Saharan Africa to North Africa and the Mediterranean world.
It's fascinating to consider those global connections existing long before the age of exploration.
Right.
It challenges the traditional narrative of Europe as the sole driver of historical progress.
Exactly.
But speaking of exploration, how does Unit 4 transoceanic interconnections shift the global landscape? What are some key takeaways we should keep in mind?
Well, this unit marks a turning point in history.
Okay.
With the Columbian Exchange, we see a dramatic reshaping of the world.
Dramatic.
Yes. Think of it as like a biological and cultural earthquake shaking up ecosystems, economies, and societies on both sides of the Atlantic.
Oh, wow.
The exchange of goods like potatoes and corn from the Americas to Europe had a profound impact on diets and populations, while the introduction of horses to the Americas transformed warfare and transportation for indigenous peoples.
It's incredible to think about how something as simple as a potato could have such a ripple effect across continents and centuries.
Yeah, potatoes changed the world.
But it wasn't all about agricultural exchange, was it? This period also saw the rise of maritime empires and, unfortunately, the devastating transatlantic slave trade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unit 4 forces us to confront the complex legacies of this era. The Columbian Exchange brought about incredible cultural diffusion and economic growth,
Right.
but also devastating consequences for indigenous populations, especially in the Americas.
Yeah.
Diseases like smallpox decimated native communities,
Wow.
creating a labor shortage that fueled the transatlantic slave trade and forever altered the demographics of the Americas.
It's a sobering reminder that history is full of nuance and complexity. There are often both positive and negative consequences to these large-scale processes. It's a story of progress and interconnection,
Yeah.
but also of exploitation and tragedy. But before we jump ahead too far, let's pause here for a moment. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
From the tapestry of Unit 1 to the seismic shifts of Unit 4, when we come back in Part 2, we'll explore some of those individuals whose writings offer us a window into these different worlds and eras, helping us understand history from diverse perspectives.
That's right, and will equip you with the historical thinking skills necessary to analyze these complex events and draw your own conclusions about the forces that have shaped our world. Stay tuned.
I can't
Welcome back. I hope you're ready for more because in this part of our deep dive, we're going to step into the shoes of some remarkable individuals
Ooh.
who lived through these pivotal moments in history.
That's right. We're talking about primary sources, those first-hand accounts that bring history to life.
Yes.
The AP World History curriculum specifically mentions some intriguing names: Ibn Battuta, Marco Polo, Karl Marx, Adam Smith, and Mao Zedong.
That's quite the list.
What a diverse group. What strikes you about this particular list?
Well, what's fascinating is that these individuals represent not just different time periods, but also different ways of engaging with the world.
Okay.
So we have travelers like Ibn Battuta and Marco Polo, whose journeys offer glimpses into distant cultures and societies.
hmm
And then we have thinkers and revolutionaries like Mark Smith and Mao, whose ideas shaped political and economic systems on a global scale.
Okay, so we have adventurers and intellectuals. Let's start with those travelers.
Okay.
Ibn Battuta and Marco Polo, those are names I remember from history class.
Familiar names.
Yeah, but I have to admit my memory is a bit fuzzy. Refresh my memory. Who were these guys and why are their accounts so valuable to historians?
Well, Ibn Battuta was a Moroccan scholar who journeyed across the Islamic world in the 14th century.
Wow,
His travel spanned over 75,000 miles,
that's incredible.
taking him from North Africa to the Middle East, India, Southeast Asia, and even China.
Wow.
His writings provide these vivid descriptions of the diverse cultures, cities, and religious practices he encountered,
Yeah.
offering us a window into a world connected by trade, faith, and scholarship.
Wow, 75,000 miles. That's some serious wanderlust.
That's a lot of miles.
His account must be full of fascinating details about daily life customs and beliefs. It's like having a time machine to transport us back to that era. And what about Marco Polo?
Right.
His name is practically synonymous with adventure and exploration.
He certainly lived up to that reputation.
Yeah.
Marco Polo, a Venetian merchant, traveled to China in the 13th century, spending over 2 decades exploring the vast Yuan dynasty ruled by Kublai Khan. His account, The Travels of Marco Polo, introduced Europeans to the wonders of the East, sparking curiosity and paving the way for future exploration and trade.
So both Ibn Battuta and Marco Polo give us first-hand perspectives on those networks of exchange that we talked about earlier.
Right.
Their journeys highlight how interconnected the world already was, centuries before the internet or airplanes. But let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
Talk about those intellectual heavyweights, Mark Smith and Mao.
Big thinkers.
Their ideas shaped entire political movements and economic systems. What can we learn from studying their writings?
Well, by reading the works of these individuals, we gain insights into the intellectual currents that shaped the modern world. Karl Marx, a 19th century German philosopher and economist, critiqued the inequalities of capitalism
Okay.
and proposed a radical alternative: communism.
Communism.
Yeah, his ideas inspired revolutions and social movements around the world, challenging existing power structures and advocating for a more equitable distribution of wealth and resources.
Marx's ideas are still debated and discussed today. It's incredible to think about the lasting impact of his work. And what about Adam Smith? He's often seen as the champion of capitalism,
Right.
the polar opposite of Marx's vision.
Kind of a counterpoint there, yeah.
Yeah.
Adam Smith, a Scottish economist, published The Wealth of Nations in 1776, a groundbreaking work that laid the foundation for modern capitalist thought.
Okay.
He argued that free markets driven by self-interest and competition would lead to greater prosperity for all. His ideas influenced economic policies and practices around the world, shaping the globalized economy we live in today.
So we have Marx advocating for a classless society and Smith promoting free market capitalism, two very different visions, but both incredibly influential. And then there's Mao Zedong,
Yeah,
a figure who looms large over 20th century history. His ideas and actions transformed China,
right.
a nation with a long and rich history of its own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mao Zedong led the Chinese Communist Revolution in 1949, establishing the People's Republic of China and implementing a communist system based on his own interpretations of Marxist ideology.
Okay.
His policies from the Great Leap Forward to the Cultural Revolution had a profound impact on Chinese society, leading to both rapid industrialization and periods of social upheaval.
It's fascinating and a bit daunting to consider how these individuals, through their ideas and actions, shape the course of history. Their writings offer us a window into those moments of both progress and turmoil, helping us understand the complexities of the modern world. But reading primary sources is just one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
How do those historical thinking skills we talked about earlier come into play?
That's where we really start to think like historians.
Okay.
These skills allow us to go beyond simply memorizing facts and dates.
Right.
And to analyze historical events and sources critically.
Critically.
Yeah, they help us ask the right questions and draw meaningful conclusions about the past.
Okay, let's break them down. The first skill mentioned is continuity and change over time. What exactly does that mean?
Sure.
How can we apply this skill to what we've learned so far?
It's about recognizing patterns in history, understanding what stays the same and what changes over time.
Okay.
For example, think about the role of religion in shaping societies.
Okay.
While specific belief systems might rise or fall in prominence, the human desire for spiritual meaning and connection is something that has remained remarkably consistent throughout history.
Hmm.
We see this in the spread of Buddhism along the Silk Road, the further of the Crusades, and even in the development of secular ideologies like communism in the 20th century. It's about recognizing those threads of continuity, those enduring human needs and desires, even as the world around them transforms.
So it's about seeing history as a tapestry,
Yes,
with both recurring patterns and new threads emerging over time.
exactly.
It's a way of understanding how the past shapes the present without reducing history to a simple linear progression. And closely related to this is the concept of causation, right? Figuring out the why behind historical events. But as we've already seen, history rarely offers simple answers, does it?
You're absolutely right. Historical events are rarely the result of one single cause.
Okay,
Instead, we need to consider the complex interplay of factors, political, economic, social, cultural, that contribute to a particular outcome.
right.
Think about the fall of the Roman Empire, a topic we often see in AP World History. Was
Yeah.
it caused by barbarian invasions, internal strife, economic decline? The answer is likely all of the above and more.
Wow.
It's like untangling a knot,
Yeah.
looking for all the different threads that contribute to its complexity.
So it's about understanding those layers of complexity, recognizing that history is a web of interconnected events and decisions, not a straightforward chain of cause and effect. It makes you realize how challenging, but also how fascinating it is to try to understand the past.
Yeah, definitely.
And finally, we have comparison, a skill that seems straightforward, but I imagine it can lead to some surprising insights.
Comparison is all about making connections and distinctions between different societies' events or historical periods. It allows us to move beyond simply describing what happened to analyzing why things happen differently in different contexts.
Okay.
For example, we might compare the French Revolution to the Haitian Revolution.
Okay.
Both were inspired by Enlightenment ideals and involved the overthrow of existing power structures, but the outcomes were very different, shaped by factors like social hierarchies, economic systems, and the role of slavery. By comparing these revolutions side by side, we gain a deeper understanding of how historical context shapes the course of events.
So comparison allows us to see the nuances, the subtle differences that make each historical event unique, while also recognizing broader patterns and trends. It's a way of sharpening our analytical skills, of becoming more discerning observers of the past. I'm already starting to appreciate how these historical thinking skills can help us make sense of the vast amount of information we're encountering in AP World History. It's like having a toolkit for dissecting historical problems and building our own interpretations.
Exactly. These skills are essential for tackling the complex questions and challenges that AP World History throws your way. And in Part 3, we'll take these skills to the next level by exploring those overarching themes that connect all 9 units, from the rise and fall of empires to the enduring impact of cultural diffusion and technological advancements. These themes will help you see the big picture, connecting the dots between centuries and understanding the forces that have shaped the world we live in today.
Are ready to connect those dots? Stay tuned for Part 3, where we'll delve into those fascinating themes that run through the entire AP World History narrative. Welcome back to our deep dive into AP World History. We've journeyed through centuries, explored diverse cultures, and even practiced our historical thinking skills.
It's been quite the journey.
It has. Now it's time to zoom out and look for those big picture connections, those overarching themes that weave their way through the entire narrative of human history.
Yeah, those big ideas that tie everything together.
Exactly.
We've touched on some of these themes already, but now we're going to explore them in a bit more depth. See how they play out across different units and time periods?
All right, I'm ready to connect those dots. Where should we begin? What's a theme that jumps out at you as particularly significant? Maybe even a bit surprising for someone who's just starting to explore world history.
Well, one theme that we see throughout history, unfortunately, is war and conflict.
Yeah, it seems like conflict is kind of a constant.
It is. From the Crusades in Unit 1 to the World Wars of the 20th century, conflict seems to be a recurring pattern in human societies.
Right,
But it's not just about memorizing battles and dates.
right.
It's about understanding the root causes of these conflicts, the motivations of the different groups involved, and the lasting consequences for individuals and societies.
It's a reminder that history is not just a tale of progress and innovation.
Right.
It's also a story of human struggle, of competition for resources and power, and the quest for peace and stability.
Absolutely.
It makes you realize that understanding conflict is essential for understanding history itself.
For sure.
So what's another major theme that pops up across the units?
Another theme that's woven throughout AP World History is cultural diffusion.
Cultural diffusion.
Yeah, think back to Unit 2, Networks of Exchange. The Silk Road, those ancient trade routes spanning across Asia, facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and beliefs long before the age of globalization.
Right.
We see the influence of Buddhism traveling from India to China,
Hmm.
the spread of Islam across North Africa and the Middle East, and the diffusion of scientific knowledge from the Islamic world to Europe. It's a powerful reminder that cultures don't exist in isolation.
They don't.
No, they're constantly interacting, borrowing from each other, and evolving over time.
It's like a global conversation that's been going on for centuries.
Exactly, a constant exchange of ideas and traditions.
And that exchange of ideas and cultural practices has only intensified in the modern era, right? I mean, with the internet and social media, information and trends can spread around the world in an instant.
Absolutely. Unit 9, Globalization in the Modern World, really delves into this rapid acceleration of cultural exchange. But as we saw in Unit 4 with the Columbian Exchange, cultural diffusion isn't always a peaceful or equitable process.
Right. It can lead to clashes of cultures, the
Yeah,
spread of disease, and the exploitation of resources and people.
exactly.
It's that complex mix of positive and negative consequences that we talked about earlier.
Right.
History is full of nuances and contradiction.
It is.
It's not a simple story of good versus evil.
Yeah, it's messy.
It's about understanding those shades of gray, those unintended consequences that ripple through time.
I like the shades of gray.
What's another theme that we should keep in mind as we journey through the different units?
Another key theme is the development of economic systems.
Economic systems, okay?
From feudalism in medieval Europe to the rise of capitalism and communism, the way humans organize their economies has a profound impact on social structures, political power, and global interactions.
Hmm.
We see this theme play out in Unit 3, Land-Based Empires, as we explore how empires like the Ottomans, the Mughals, and the Aztecs developed complex systems of taxation, trade, and labor to sustain their power and influence.
And those systems have continued to evolve and shape the world we live in today.
Oh, absolutely.
We're still grappling with the legacies of colonialism, the rise of global capitalism, and the ongoing debates about how to create a more just and sustainable economic system.
It's an ongoing process, for sure.
And finally, we can't forget about the theme of governance and power.
Right, the age-old question, who's in charge?
Yeah, the age-old question of who rules, how they rule, and who benefits from those systems of power.
Right, who holds the reins?
This theme is central to understanding everything from the rise and fall of empires to the evolution of political ideologies and the ongoing struggle for human rights and social justice.
That's right.
Unit 5 Revolutions offers some particularly dramatic examples of how people have challenged existing power structures throughout history.
Yeah, it's a pivotal unit.
From the American Revolution to the French Revolution to the Haitian Revolution, we see how ordinary people fueled by ideas of liberty, equality, and self-determination rose up to demand change.
Really inspiring stuff.
It's inspiring to see those moments of courage and collective action, those instances where people dared to imagine a different future, and those struggles continue today in various forms,
They do.
as people around the world fight for greater representation, equality, and freedom.
Absolutely, the fight continues.
AP World History helps us connect those past struggles to present-day movement and challenges, recognizing that the quest for a more just and equitable world is an ongoing process.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Wow, we've covered so much ground in this deep dive, from the overall structure of the course to specific units, primary source authors, historical thinking skills, and now these overarching themes. It's really starting to feel like all the pieces are fitting together.
Yeah, it's all connected.
I'm seeing those connections between centuries, those recurring patterns, and those enduring human struggles that make history so fascinating and relevant to our lives today.
It's a pretty amazing story when you think about it.
It is, and I hope our listeners feel the same way. Remember, approaching history with curiosity, a critical eye, and a willingness to make connections is key to unlocking its mysteries.
That's a great takeaway.
It's not just about memorizing facts and dates. It's about understanding the forces that have shaped our world, the choices people made, the consequences they faced, and the lessons we can learn from their experiences.
Well said. I think that's a perfect way to wrap up our deep dive.
I agree. Thanks for joining me on this journey, and to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into history.